any updates or information, so that we can, make sure we can answer your questions before, either you go off and enjoy your holidays in summer, or get into the busy period for the tenancy sector during these coming months. So that's the idea. That's why I'm here. I've got a few questions already submitted through, and Jan's very kindly emailed them through, which is very nice. Because I've asked for pre-submitted questions, so I can, not just see what the questions are, but also prepare materials and content to show you where to find answers and find help. So, if you've got questions or whatever, in the future, you know where to look and where to look for help. Otherwise, there's Sharon, there's Jan, there's myself that we can help. So the idea for this session, it's fairly casual. I don't have a fancy PowerPoint to show you this time around. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because some of the questions are quite detailed and very wordy. So if I had a PowerPoint, then it'll just be 4 words, and it wouldn't be as attractive, and I'll very quickly lose everyone. So I thought I'll show you some nice pretty pictures on our website instead, and show you where to find those info. We'll probably get through the questions fairly quickly. There's 9 questions from memory, and we'll probably get through them in the next 15 minutes or so. So it'll be me talking for about 15 minutes, and then we should have some time at the end, and I'm happy to take any questions here as well. As always, there will be ones that I just can't remember the answer to right now, or I'll need to check in with some other colleagues, either at NB or at HUD. So for those ones, I'll come back to you via Jan, and I'll give you a written response. But let's get into it, and then we'll see what time comes, and maybe even I can go out and do a bit of late night shopping. So. All right. So, and if you've got questions, if you can just save them to the end, that'll be easiest, because otherwise it'll just be, we'll be pausing all the time, and it'll just be a bit too disruptive. And I see everyone's got your mics on mute mostly, so that's nice in case, you've got a crying baby or, a screaming cat in the background, then it doesn't scare everyone else. So, have your do have your camera on. Be nice to see everyone if it's convenient with you. Otherwise, please mute until the end. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen, and it's essentially our website. So hopefully you see the Tenancy Services website. If you don't, give me a wave and I'll sort it out. But if I don't see anyone frantically waving, I'm just gonna kick into it. I'm sure you all know our website. You know who Tenancy Services is. I'm not going to go into that, so I just jump right into the questions. A whole range of topics tonight, which is nice. Keep things interesting. The first one's about MEF testing. As you all probably already recall or are aware, the MEF testing and the regulations for that came in. It was announced in the Residential Tenancies Amendment Act 2019, so a little while ago now. Our colleagues over at the other ministry, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, who is responsible for policy development for the residential tenancy sector, they are still working on the regulations. It's very busy, as you can appreciate, and there's still been some disruptions in the last couple of years in the way of COVID. So a lot of things are just on the go and very dynamic at the moment. So those regulations for MEF testing are still being developed. Once we have any further information available for you, we will communicate that to all our key stakeholders, and that includes the NZPIF and with Sharon and Jen, and they'll be able to let you know the latest updates on those. But for now, you'll have to follow the information available on our website on MEF testing and what standards there may be. The easiest way to find it is go to the search bar, search for MEFs, and the first one, properties affected by MEFs, and you'll find the 2 standards there for reference. You can use either of these as a reference. So there's the New Zealand standard, which is the 1.5, and there's also the report from the Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor, which is anywhere under 15. Now, I know this is a big range. I know there's a lot of questions around insurance, a lot of ruling from the tribunal as well. It is frustrating, and I appreciate that it is frustrating. And the team over at HUD are working on this regulation. For now, this is what you'll have to use in terms of your information to refer to. In terms of testing for your properties, what I would recommend is, obviously you can't do it yourselves anyway, and you'll need to engage professionals in the fields to do the testing. Follow their advice, and also just remember, as landlords, and generally, when you're providing accommodation to tenants and people, you want to provide, a safe and healthy environment for tenants to live in. And of course, that's also part of the landlord's responsibility. So if you find a level that is, high, I would recommend looking at what is required in terms of decontamination or any advice from the professional providers. Also, I've just got a note in here as well that in your tenancy agreements, perhaps you can have a look at whether you need to include additional clauses relating to meth testing in the tenancy agreement. So you can just make sure that it's clear to both incoming tenants that that is being done. There's no worries about that, or to any current tenants to say, look, we just want to make sure that everyone, including the landlord, ourselves, are looking after the property. So there is this testing that we will do perhaps at the exit of the tenancy, just to make sure that everything is fine and there's no worries there. So you can also consider that as an additional clause in your tenancy agreement. Any questions? We'll come back to the end at the end, and we can have a look at those. The second one is about assignment of tenancies. So the question here was, one of your members have called our service center, and they've been told that they have to agree with all the tenancy assignment requests. Now, obviously, as of 11 February this year, the law change says you must consider all requests from tenants to assign the tenancy, and you cannot decline unreasonably. Now, the question around there from your member, what is reasonable? My information here for you would be, it's essentially looking for a tenant for the property. So it's similar to when you're offering or considering applicants for the tenancy in the first place. Have a look at the property, have a look at the applicants, or the person being assigned to, or any other applicants for the assignment, and just see whether the property and the tenancy would be suitable for the person being assigned the tenancy. You can decline the requests if there are reasonable, valid reasons for that. And again, it would be fairly similar to what you would consider when you are offering a tenancy. So use that as a guideline when you're looking for tenants or assigning tenancies. I think in our website here, under starting a tenancy, information for landlords, there's a section on how to choose tenants, and this will give you some kind of guidance on what things to consider when you're choosing tenants, and it would be similar when you're considering assignment requests. So have a look at this page here under information for landlords, choosing tenants. That would be a good guidance on what are reasonable factors to consider, and use that as a reference. Obviously, in an assignment requests, there are potentially costs involved with that assignment requests, and reasonable costs that have been incurred, can be charged to the outgoing tenant, as long as you can give the tenant a breakdown of the expenses and also the invoice of the costs already incurred. So that's something else to consider as well. All of this information is on the previous page, change of landlord, under assignment. You can find that all there. Don't worry about copying down web addresses or where to find us, because I'm going to send through a written response with all the web links. So you've got that there for reference later on. Now, the third question's got to do with insurance and liabilities, or specifically with tenants' liabilities for damage. So it says, your member here has been very lucky so far and had not had any issues previously, but he or she has always had concerns about recovering costs from damages. So, and it says, obviously the members already read up on our website, because they know that if the tenant or the guest cause careless damage in a rental property, they will be liable for the cost of the damage up to 4 weeks of rent, or the landlord's insurance excess, whichever is lower. So the member understands that. The question there was, can I add in any additional clauses to say, that the tenant is liable for the full costs, as opposed to only up to the 4 weeks rent or the insurance excess, whichever is lower? The answer there is you cannot, because you can't add conditions in the tenancy agreement that are unenforceable. By unenforceable, it means that it's inconsistent with the law. So you can't ask of a tenant more.
It's hopeless, this one.
More than what they're responsible for. If there are any issues, obviously there is the tribunal option. But I appreciate that, in some cases, and probably more extreme cases, it could be difficult. But again, if you've got a very particular scenario that you've got questions about, I don't think I can
listen to him. He's driving me nuts.
That you've got questions about, I'm always happy to help and have a chat offline as well. So if you've got questions, sing out offline and we can have that conversation. The next one, it's about, this one here is about giving notice. So the tenant was on a fixed term agreement, has been on a fixed term agreement for a while, and they've signed an extension covering period from February 15, 2021 to February 2022. So this one here, I will definitely, if you're the person that requested this question, do have a look at my written response later that I'll send to Jan, and she'll forward it out because it's very specific to your scenario. As for this fixed term tenancy here, it was signed prior to the law changes on the 11th of Feb this year. What that means is the question there is, I'm looking to sell, but I might do a bit of renovation work as well. How much notice do I have to give? Because this one here, the original fixed term agreement was signed prior to the law change on the 11th of Feb. The previous termination and notice periods would apply, which means you can give notice between 21 to 90 days to confirm that the fixed term will not continue past the expiry date. So that's for this particular scenario. Obviously, with the law changes for all current periodic tenancies and any fixed term tenancies signed from the 11th of Feb, you'll have to adhere to the new rules, which is you'll have to give termination notice and the notice period and the reason outlined in the regulation. So have a read through my response in this one, and it'll give you a little bit more clarity on the notice period. For this example here, you don't have to give a reason because you just have to confirm between the 21 to 90 days that you're not going to continue with the fixed term upon expiry. Next one. This one's on vaccination certificates for landlord, tenants, tradespeople, and anyone else, and also, a question about privacy as well. We will have information on our website either tonight or tomorrow on the new traffic light system, which will answer some of this question as well. What I'll also show you, and obviously go to our homepage, it'll say COVID-19 alert level information. Click into there. At the moment, it's still got the level 1, 2, 3, 4 guidance, but tonight or tomorrow morning, we will have the red, orange, and green guidance as well. Another good website, actually a couple more websites I want to show you is this one here. Probably not as relevant for you guys because you're not a real estate agent or property management company, but it'll be good for you to understand anyway with regards to, say, open homes or auctions and things like that. So in fact, I'll start with this one here. So this one's the Real Estate Authority. Obviously, they deal with the sales side of things, but this is the latest information on the traffic light system. and it's, they've already updated it this morning with the different colors. We will have our information on there on our website. But some key things to note here would be when you need to use My Vaccine Pass and things like that. So if we scroll down a little bit to in-home services, this includes property management. Then this is what the setting is under the guidance for from the REA on the sales side of things. Again, you won't unfortunately get a chance to read through all this right now. I will send through a link and you can have a look at it in your own time as well. Also, just further down, there's about open homes, and that's probably what's more relevant for you guys. If you are in the process or will be selling your home, then you need to understand the guidance. The guidance from the REA, which is now on their website, is that open homes and auctions for private properties are gatherings. Open homes for commercial properties or are not at a private home are events. And that does have different implications for how it works. Your property manager or the sales agent will be all over it, so don't stress. But it's always good to just have a bit of understanding of what the requirements are, especially everyone is learning how to manage COVID, and in our daily lives, and with new things coming our way. If you haven't sold a house before, or if you haven't attended an open home in the last couple of years, that's going to be a new experience in the new era. So it's always pays to have a little bit of knowledge of what to expect as well. But don't stress, we will have information on our website that will be a very simple speak, and we'll make sure we lay it out really nicely and easy to understand as well, so you know exactly what to expect, what you need to do in what circumstance. If you've got questions, come to Jan, come to Sharon, they'll fire it through to me, and we can always give you a bit more information. Also, just remember, with the Privacy Act 2020, vaccination status is personal information that is covered by the Act. So, tread carefully in how you deal with that as well. We will have a bit more information on our website once this is updated with the colors, the traffic light colors. There will be a bit of information on vaccination and My Vaccine Pass and things like that. So if there are still questions on that you want to know, fire it through to me and I'll get some answers for you. The next one's on smoke alarms, and this is interesting because it says here that the property has a hobby/storeroom at the back of a garage, but it cannot be used as a sleep out or bedroom because it's not compliant as a living space or a sleep out. But the tenant is saying, because there's a smoke alarm nearby and because of the room, I want to use it as a bedroom, where to go from here. So as landlords, you need to make sure that the tenant understands which part of the property, should be used for what. If it's not intended as a bedroom, you need to let them know that it's not a bedroom, and get them to understand and not use it as a bedroom. If they choose to use the room as a bedroom, even though you've told them that they can't, and you've had it on your tenancy agreement, obviously very clearly saying, it's X number of bedrooms and these are the ones. If they still use it, then that's tenant behavior, and that can't, that's not your responsibility in terms of a landlord. You have already told them that is not a bedroom. You shouldn't be using it as a bedroom. And you've made it clear to them, both in conversation and also possibly on your tenancy agreement as well, on, the legal limits on, particular use of the property, particular areas of the property as well. So if you've got any issues with that, talk to a tenant. And then if it does become an issue, say, for example, that it is like, leads to any health or safety concerns for you as a landlord, then you need to make sure that they don't continue to use the space as a bedroom. And if you're in doubt or needing a bit more support, come to tenancy services, and we can have a look at the scenario and whether it needs to be an issue that needs to be resolved by the tribunal. Again, I've got some information here On the written response, it's a little bit more detailed than what I've just said. If you're the person that asked the question and you're here tonight, have a read through. There's a bit more details in there. But generally, if you've told what your tenants can do or can use a room for example, if it's a storeroom in the garage or in the garage and they're using it as a bedroom, and you told them that they can't and it's not consented, it's not, it shouldn't be bedroom, and they continue to do so, have a conversation, and if there's still concerns, get in touch with tenancy services. There's a similar question, the next one as well. It's about providing heating. Tenants are using the lounge as a bedroom, but it is what form of heating is appropriate for a bedroom may not be appropriate for a lounge. Again, you need to specify to the tenant the use of the property and in particular areas of the property, and just make sure that they understand, and see how you can work out a solution together. If there are concerns on building health and safety, they need to understand and the concerns, and if it continues, then get in touch with tenancy services, and we can see how we can help. Again, a little bit more detail in the response to this question here, so read that through. Rent increases. This one here, it says, can you clarify whether you can increase every 52 weeks or every 365 days? Information on our website is very simple. For both fixed term and periodic tenancies, landlord can only increase rent after the first 12 months of the tenancy, provided the increase is not within 12 months of the last increase, and you just need to give the proper notice. It says here, the question came because it's a bit messy if you increase rent after say 12 months, and it's in between in between the increase, it's in between the different rent payment weeks, and so there's a split, a different amount for a particular week, where perhaps some days are still on the old rate and some days are on the new rate. My advice for you is, if you've followed the rules, you've given the correct notice, and obviously not just the 12-month rules, but you've done your homework and had a look at the rental rates around that area for the property, for similar properties, and the amount that you're increasing by and everything like that. As long as you've done all of that, then it's up to the tenant's responsibility to make sure that they pay the right amount. So whether there's a split week where parts of it may still be under the old rates and parts of it might be the new rates, it's really up to them to sort it out, and it's them to make sure that they fulfill their responsibility in paying the rent. So just make sure you give the proper notice, and there's going to be enough time for them to sort any auto payments or anything out anyway. It's up to them to make sure that they have got all of that correct, and you shouldn't have to worry about it. So just every 12 months, well, not within the first 12 months, and not within the an increase haven't already been done within the last 12 months as the condition for rent increase. The last couple of questions here is got to do with WINS. So it says the WINS advisors understands that they can't advise on the RTA because they're not obviously the subject matter experts on the RTAs, but sometimes they do give information that's incorrect to, I'm guessing, tenants. My advice for you is Tenancy Services website and our resources should be your primary source of information for both landlords and tenants. If you have questions, obviously you've got Sharon and Jan here from the NZPIF that can help you. Tenants, if they have questions, there's CABs, there's ComLaw. There's also a really good website that's developed by the CAB for tenants. But I think I may have shown you guys last time, but I also recommend landlords having a look. And if you've got questions, see if you can find an answer from here, because information for landlord is the same for information for tenants. There's the same type of information, there's same content. This one here is written, it's mainly from the CAB website. and it's good to, very simple to understand. And sometimes what happens is they also have previous tribunal orders as well as an example of what's happened in with those subjects previously. And you can, it's a fairly easy to use website. Just search for what you're looking for. It'll tell you what section of the Act it comes from if you're really wanting to dig into it. And sometimes, not this one here, but sometimes down here they've got previous tribunal rulings as well. So if you or your tenant are looking for information, Tenancy Services website should be a first go to. Otherwise, try this one, or if you're still needing help, go to the Federation or try our contact center as well. There's always those kind of options for you to get the most up-to-date information. A follow-up to that, and it's the last question, so you'll stop hearing from me in a sec. It's also about wins. It's just about rent increase, rent payments. Because and I'll need to find out a bit more from MSD, but it says here WINS always pays after, whereas pay their policy is paying in arrears, whereas for tenancy agreements often it is asked that rent is paid in advance. My suggestion there is just to make sure that the tenant, and if WINS are supporting that, then the tenant payments, and just make sure that they see on the tenancy agreement that it's been ticked, yes, pay in advance, so that they can, I'm sure they can have a look at that and see, how they do the dates. But I'll follow this up myself. I'll put that down as an action point because I haven't come across this particular question before. So I'll follow up with our connections over at MSD just to find out a little bit more about the process. And see, if there's anything that we can help to refine that process to make it a little bit simpler and easier. So leave that with me as an action point. If I get some progress with it, I will let you guys know at our next webinar session, or might even be in person in 2022. So that's an action point for me for tonight. That's all the pre-submitted questions. I'm sure you're pretty bored of my voice by now after half an hour. I did say 15 minutes, but I do talk a lot. So that's all the information I've got for you tonight. Sharon or Jan, have you had any further questions submitted through?
No, but I see Sarah Elliott has said, thanks for this, very interesting so far. So
oh, perfect, thank you. Look, it's I appreciate that we can't please everyone. And to be honest, I welcome all comments, because I don't just want to hear, great, thanks, really good. I want to hear really constructive feedback. If there are things that we can help you, you should let me know. If you don't let me know, I can't help. We can't make it better for you. That's why I'm sitting here at 7 o'clock on a weeknight to do a webinar, do Q&As, and and say, look, I want to meet you all and see what themes you're seeing, what challenges you're seeing. If there's any help that you're needing, then this is why I'm here, and we're making the effort to connect. I see in the chat any news on the heating calculation. So I've said last time, there will be announcements this side of Christmas on what the policy development over at HUD is in terms of the heating tool, or well, the heating formula, I should say. So there's recognition that for some properties, primarily new builds, so built to the current building code, or in apartment blocks and things like that, where the heating formula may not be appropriate for the heating requirements, and maybe overestimating a little bit. That's being looked at. There will be more information this side of Christmas on what that is. So I don't have anything for you right now because I don't have the final changes. That's still going through cabinet and a lot of that, but HUD will definitely let us know once it's done. They will push out announcements. We will push information over to Jan. She will filter it through. This side of Christmas, there will be more information. I just don't have anything for you right now tonight. Also, they're looking at, some other things like geothermal heating as well. That's also come up several times from a lot of different people. So they are looking into that and seeing how to make sure efficient and effective heating can be used to satisfy the heating standard and to satisfy the intent of the heating standard. So watch the space. There will be more available before Christmas. I think there's another question. This is a little bit long. Let's look. When pay in arrears to avoid client debt recurring if paid in advance. Okay, I'll follow that up with MSD and I'll see if I can get anywhere with that. I just need to further understand that that process, especially in their accounting as well. So I'll catch up with MSD and I'll come back to you guys on it. Infrared being considered. Infrared in terms of, I need a little bit more there from Anne.
It's in terms of the heating, but no, it's not being considered. It's infrared heating, so you can put it on the ceiling in a room, and it heats. Very unusual. It heats the body, but no, it's not being considered because it can't get up to the kilowatts that's required.
I see. Yeah, currently it's not. But hey, look, like I say all the time, legislations will change, and I think you should welcome change, because if it doesn't change, it's no longer relevant to the market. So who knows? Maybe further down the track, it could be a solution, but for now, I don't believe that is part of what they're looking into at the moment. There's some new builds.
Owner occupier.
There's the new builds. Right, I think I understand where you're coming from. That's got to do with the discrepancy, the differences of intent between the building code and the healthy home standards. I'm guessing that's where it's coming from. And you would actually have seen from either our website or the building performance website, also on the MB, that there's been a building code update. The building code updates every year. So it's, it's not like there was a big reform to the RTA like, this year. Building code, they look at different parts of it every year and they'll make adjustments. So part of the 2021 update, one of it was actually on insulation. So I'll include that web address in my written response so you understand. But that one on insulation, there's going to be additional requirements to what it is now for the building code. That's for new builds. Insulation standard for the healthy homes will not change for now. It remains at what it is. So it might sound confusing, but I'll send that through, link through, and you can have a read over the weekend, and it'll make a lot more sense and a lot clearer. But the insulation standard, in terms of R value and compliance, will remain as the healthy home standards compliance for now. But I do appreciate, there are some areas where there can be differences with new builds, whether it's whether it'll meet compliance for rental. That's something that we're aware of. I don't have an answer for you right now. But again, and those who, I think you may have all probably joined one of our webinars hosted by Jan at some stage. But in terms of MB and tenancy services, we're more the regulator, or more the operational side. Any policy related questions, feed that to us, because we're your connection. But then we'll have to pass it over back to the housing and urban development for any policy considerations, because they lead all the policy development. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to hear any repeating themes or common themes or challenges. We can feed that back, so you also have a voice, and any policy changes or things that needs to be looked at. I'll follow up on that as well. I'll note that down as a second point of homework for me, just to have another look and see what discrepancies or anomalies there might be between new builds for rental and for owner occupiers. Any other questions or comments? It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment or feedback or thoughts or things that you've seen or anything else. You can't comment on my hair anymore because I've finally had a haircut. I'm very, very glad that this webinar it wasn't last week. I've managed to sneak in an appointment once they were open, so it was nice having a haircut after 4 months.
Oh, it's a long time.
It was horrible. I actually offered my wife to cut it and she refused, because she said, I have to look at you. So, she refused, and I guess that's fair enough.
Well, thank you so much for tonight, Raymond.
That's all right. I've always enjoyed.
Looks like everyone's got something out of it, so thank you.
Yeah, and like I say, I'll send through a written response possibly tomorrow, or might have to be early next week if there might be a few other things I want to add to it, and I'll send it back through to Jan, and she can filter that through to everyone. And for those who couldn't join tonight because they were shopping, they can have a look at the answers as well in the recording. As always, send through your questions or anything that to Jan. She flicks through fairly quickly, and then it sometimes takes me a little while to check in with some of the other colleagues, or if it needs to go to HUD for some comments, then it takes a little bit longer, but we'll always get back to you. So if you have questions, utilize this resource that you've got here with the Federation. Sharon and Jan are fantastic. And obviously all your PIAs as well. And if you're needing recommendations for any healthy homes works or anything, talk to your other landlord peeps in your PIAs, because they will definitely have good stories and probably some horror stories as well to share. So you can pick the best guys for whatever needs you have. But that's it from me. Unless there's anything else, do enjoy a really good Christmas and summer holidays. Hopefully it's not going to be too frantic for you guys. Those in Auckland, hopefully you'll get to go out and relax a little bit. But otherwise, we look forward to catching up with you all, hopefully in person sometime next year.
Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Raymond.
All right, thanks Sharon, thanks Jen, thanks team.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.